Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. I know we have a few more people trickling in, so we'll give them a couple of minutes here and then we'll get started with the webinar. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Impact Grants How to Apply webinar. My name is Eric Dexter. I am the Vice President of Civic Leadership Initiatives here at the Baton Rouge Area Foundation. I want to let you know that we'll have a few members of our team on today, and in particular, some of our members from our civic leadership team that will be assisting us throughout the webinar as well as the Q&A. After I finish the brief introduction here, my colleague, our director of our department, Leah Taylor, will take over and tell you a little bit more about the impact grants and the focus areas. And then Kimberly Littlefield and Hannah Bayham will be assisting us with the Q&A that we will get to at the end of our presentation today. So with that, we'll get going. So today we'll tell you a little bit more about the Impact Grants program, give you a greater understanding of the funding priorities, review the eligibility requirements, and learn the application process and timeline. And as I mentioned, we will do answer questions at the end of the presentation. Please use the chat throughout to submit questions, and we'll take those and get to those chat questions towards the end. I will also say that if you would like to speak at the end of the presentation, please use the raise the hand function there at the chat icon that you have on your screen in Zoom, and we'll also let you speak towards the end. This webinar will be recorded, and the recording and the materials from this presentations will be provided to you all following the webinar. Before we get into the components of how to apply and the letter of interest and the application, I want to tell you a little bit more about the foundation and why we have chosen to do this work. The foundation has been around since 1964, serving the Capital Region and South Louisiana. Our work includes supporting nonprofits, convening community leaders, investing in innovative solutions, leveraging philanthropy, and advancing opportunities for residents. Next slide, please, Hannah. In 2022, BRAF undertook a strategic planning process, and throughout that strategic planning process, In our community engagement research, the opportunity agenda was developed and priorities were identified. Those 6 priority areas include excellent education, healthy families, economic prosperity, strong and safe neighborhoods, regional resilience, and quality of life. Next slide, please, Hannah. And from that, we also developed a multi-year research effort called the Opportunity Data Project in partnership with a nationally recognized data and research firm called Common Good Labs. And with that, we are using data and community insight to identify barriers to opportunity. This also helps us to understand where investments could have the greatest impact. Each of these briefings have reinforced how connected the pillars of our opportunity agenda really are. The findings from this work have informed the development of the 2026 Impact Grants Program. And from there, where we are with the Impact Grants, I'll hand it over to Leah to discuss the purpose.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. In terms of what are impact grants, what is the purpose? The Impact Grants Program was really developed to help move data into action and into funding opportunities. Impact grants are a competitive funding opportunity supporting organizations that serve communities across the Capital Region, focused on areas identified through the Opportunity Data Project, as Eric mentioned, designed to support evidence-informed and community-driven solutions. For 2026, up to $300,000 will be available for distribution. Individual awards up to $25,000 will be available for single organizations applying for single focus areas, and up to $50,000 will be available for organizations who are applying for 2 or more funding areas. These will be one-time grant awards as well. The different types of funding that we have are general operating support, project and program support, and capital cost assistance. In terms of the application process, it does consist of 2 phases. Initially, the letter of intent. Can we go back one slide? Thank you so much. The letter of intent, and then an invitation-only full application. Grant selections will be made through a multi-level review process that includes staff, senior and executive leadership, as well as a governance oversight committee. So now we can take a closer look at the 3 funding priorities for 2026. Next slide. Thank you so much. We have early childhood, which is consistent from last year, healthy families, and economically prosperous families. I do want to note that our priorities do look somewhat different from last year. We've expanded to include healthy families, again, and economically prosperous families, with several of the previously identified community safety priorities now being embedded in other areas. So I'll talk a little bit about early childhood, then go to healthy families, and then go to prosperous families and economic prosperity. In early childhood education and development, we are focused on systems change, increasing access to high quality early learning options, and supporting initiatives and programs that empower parents and caregivers to be equipped with knowledge and resources from birth. We're looking for programs that make it easier for families to find and access childcare, early learning opportunities, and the supports that they need to help their children succeed before entering kindergarten. We're interested in creative solutions that expand childcare options in the community, including home-based providers, micro centers, and shared service models that help more families access quality care. We also are interested in programs that support parents and caregivers through family engagement, peer support, and financial assistance that makes early learning and childcare more affordable. I'll move on to healthy families. In our Healthy Families portfolio, we are prioritizing investments that help young people thrive and reduce violence before it starts. We want to improve access to healthcare and mental and behavioral health services. We want to focus on healthy mothers and babies. And we also, again, want to make sure that we focus on the mental and behavioral health piece as well. So going back to reducing violence before it starts under our Healthy Families portfolio, the briefing indicates that violence is one of the largest contributors to premature death in Baton Rouge, with homicide rates far exceeding the national average. The report also highlights that educational engagement, early intervention, tutoring, and behavioral health supports are among the most effective prevention strategies. So we're really looking for organizations that help youth build pathways to success. We want to improve access to healthcare and mental and behavioral health where the need is the greatest. We also want to support preventable health support programs that we want to identify programs and services for preventable health challenges that reduce life expectancy in our communities. Many of the recommended solutions focus on expanding access to healthcare, prevention services, screenings, addiction treatment, and behavioral health support. We encourage proposals that help residents access care earlier and remove barriers to healthy outcomes. We recognize that mental and behavioral health are critical to overall well-being. We welcome programs that help children, youth, and families access counseling, prevention services, and other mental health supports. We encourage efforts that bring healthcare and supportive services closer to the community through schools, mobile services, community centers, and youth-serving organizations. Finally, healthy mothers and babies are essential to healthy families and stronger communities, and the report identifies prenatal care, maternal health services, parent education, and early family supports as critical opportunities for improvement. We're interested in funding efforts that support mothers, infants, and families in healthy pregnancies, healthy births, and strong starts for babies through home visiting, doula services, care coordination, and other maternal and infant health supports. Finally, moving on to Prosperous Families. The Prosperous Families briefing found that nearly 45% of families with children in East Baton Rouge are living in poverty or near poverty, and many parents work in jobs with lower wages, less stability, and fewer opportunities for advancement. We're interested in programs that help individuals build skills, earn credentials, and access career pathways that lead to greater economic stability. The report also identified apprenticeships, employer-based training, and educational attainment as some of the strongest strategies for helping families move up the economic ladder. We encourage proposals that connect youth and adults to hands-on learning opportunities, career exploration, and work-based experiences that can lead to long-term success. The briefing also highlighted the important role that small businesses and self-employment play in family prosperity. We welcome programs that help entrepreneurs, small business owners, and child care providers access technical assistance, funding, and business supports that strengthen sustainability and create economic opportunity in our community. Our funding priorities were truly informed by local data and community needs, and while each funding area is distinct, they're deeply connected. By investing in early childhood, healthy families, and economic prosperity, we can help create stronger outcomes for children, families, and community. One quick reminder before we move on to eligibility. Organizations do not necessarily need to fit into every category that's listed. We really are looking for alignment, very clear alignment with one or more funding priorities. With regard to eligibility, organizations must be a 501c3 or a public agency, be in good standing with state and federal regulations, have operated for at least 2 years, serve residents across the capital region, and have demonstrated experience in one or more funding areas. Our service area includes Ascension Parish, East Baton Rouge Parish, East Feliciana, Iberville, Livingston, Point Coupee, West Baton Rouge, and West Feliciana parishes. We have 3 types of funding support available for this grant opportunity. The first is general operating or unrestricted support, which is flexible support for organizational operations. project and program support, which is funding for implementation or expansion of programs and projects, and capital cost assistance, which is funding for facilities, equipment, or infrastructure needs, including pre-development costs associated with new construction or expansion. If you are unsure which funding category best fits your request, please select the option that most closely aligns with how you believe the funds will best be used. Moving on to the application process, we have a two-phase application process, which includes the letter of intent and an invitation-only full application. For the first phase, the letter of intent, they are available now on our website at braf.org/impact-grants. The letters of intent should be submitted no later than July 24th. Organizations will provide a brief letter of intent requesting overview information on the organization's mission, purpose, programs, services, population served, and detail on the funding request. For phase two, which is an invitation-only application, selected organizations will receive an invitation to submit a full application. Organizations who are not selected to submit a full application will be notified as well, and additional information will be requested at that stage. Again, just want to thank you, Hannah. Want to reiterate that LOI should be submitted by Friday, July 24th. If you visit the website, there is not only a link to submit the letter of intent, but there's also a downloadable Word document with the list of questions that are included in the LOI. So I'm gonna stay here for a little bit to talk about what we're looking for in the LOI phase, and then we'll move on to what we're looking for in the application phase. We'll talk a little bit about the timeline, and then we'll transition into Q&A. In terms of the LOI, we're looking for alignment with our funding priorities, target populations, and service areas, and demonstrated organizational capacity. We encourage organizations to submit their strongest programs, but we also want to be transparent that this is a competitive process. We do expect to receive more high-quality applications than we're able to fund, so selections will be based on alignment with those funding priorities, community need, organizational readiness, and the potential for measurable impact. For the application phase, applications will be reviewed based on alignment and impact, capacity and sustainability, partnership and reach, and financial stewardship. In terms of alignment and impact, we'll be looking for proposals that clearly align with our funding priorities and demonstrate how they'll address community needs. We want to understand, in terms of capacity and sustainability, we want to understand your organization's ability to deliver the proposed work and sustain meaningful outcomes over time. In terms of partnership and reach, strong applications demonstrate collaboration with community partners and a clear plan for reaching the populations and geographic areas of greatest need. For financial stewardship, we'll consider whether the proposed budget is reasonable, well-planned, and reflects responsible use of grant funds. Again, I just want to reiterate that we do expect to receive many more requests than we're able to fund, and that funding decisions will be based on overall alignment, readiness, and potential for impact. We encourage applicants to be concise and specific and clear about how their work aligns with the funding priorities. So moving on to the timeline, the letter of intent officially opened on July 7th. We're hosting the webinar today. The letter of intent closes on Friday, July 24th. In September, we will extend invitations for organizations to apply, and we will also notify those organizations who will not be moving on to the application phase. The full application window will take place between September and October. We anticipate making funding decisions in November of this year, with funds distributed in December of 2026. Now we'll transition into Q&A, and I'll turn it back over to Eric.
Thank you, Leah. We'll now open it up for questions. As I mentioned, it would be helpful if you could use the hand up reaction that you have there, useful at the bottom of your tray in Zoom. And we'll let you come off mute and we can get those questions. Or if you feel like putting it in the chat, we'll read those aloud as well. And I'll ask Hannah and Kimberly from our end just to monitor the chat and any hand ups for me. Okay, I see. It looks like we have a first question from Dr. Ashlyn Harrison. Let's see. Can we unmute her? Thank you. Ashlyn, you should be available to speak now.
Yes, I was like, I don't actually think y'all have it set up where I can unmute myself. Hey Eric, hey Leah, how are y'all doing today? Thank you so much. This was very informative, and I'm glad to know that a lot of the things are still in place or just in different buckets. I just had a quick question about receiving funds 2 years in a row. Like, is there any stipulation on receiving funds for this year because we received funds for last year? I just want to make sure there are no stipulations on that.
Hey, Dr. Harrison. Um,
Hey.
it's good to hear from you and thank you for that question. There are no stipulations so for our current impact grant partners, mid-year reports are due very soon. We will, if you are considering applying for submitting a letter of intent with this impact grant round, please try to get your report in sooner than later. We are making it possible and available for current impact grant partners to submit a LOI for another round of funding if you're interested in doing so. And it would be incredibly helpful to have those reports in hand when we are making those determinations and moving folks to the next round of funding. So if you can get those reports in sooner than later, that would be great.
I always give myself 2 weeks so that I pretend like it's due 2 weeks before. So I'm on it.
Period. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, so it looks like we have a question in the chat and we have hands up. I will go to the chat first and then we'll come back to the folks that have their hands up. So looks like Crystal Pichon has a question in the chat. Are we able to ask a staff member which pod are we best suited for or just used our best judgment? Good question, Crystal. And I think if I am reading this correctly, and we'll feel free to let you off mute if you're able to speak, just in case we need some clarification. But yes, we can rely on staff members. Obviously, they're the folks who are on the front lines and doing this work on a day-to-day basis. So it would be great to get their input.
Crystal, are you asking? Okay, cool. Thank you. I didn't know if your question was asking if your staff can, yes, if your staff can answer questions or if the BRAF team can answer questions.
I know that you're talking about alignment, but I just wondered if you felt like your entire organization fit across three and you were kind of having a hard time deciding which direction to go or to do two or one or which one, if an applicant can ask a BRAF staff member, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. What pot do you think we're best suited for? Or would you rather us just use our best judgment and base it on the criteria that you all put forward?
I think we will welcome that conversation and we will be happy to have that conversation with you so that you are making the best determination based on what you share with us. Obviously, with that, we wouldn't be able to make any guarantees about anything. However, we would want to be supportive to you as much as we can.
Right. Okay, great. That's helpful. Thank you, Leah.
Yes, ma'am.
And we will provide you with the email address that you can submit questions to at the end of the presentation here. We probably can also put that in the chat. I believe it's just going to be grants@braf.org. That'll help us all and our team to be able to collect a lot of the questions that are submitted and be able to distribute those to the right person to answer that question.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Now I'll move on to the folks who have their hands up. Looks like Dr. Willie is at Louvier.
Yes, it is. Very good. You get an A plus, Eric. Thank you for that.
Born and raised in Louisiana. That takes me
That's it,
somewhere.
right? All right. Greetings from the field in Point Capee. Thank you so much for hosting this today. And we love BRAF and everything that it stands for in our communities because it brings so many resources to so many who need it. So thank you for that right off the bat. My question is, the LOI and the process, is it a rolling feel or are you all going to look at the letters of intent after they close on the 24th? Basically the question is there a rush to do it right now, or do we have time really to systematically think through this process a little bit further?
That's a good question. Yes, we will. Once the deadline, and we put that timeline up, which we can go back to that again. But once the deadline closes for the letters of intent, we will then begin to evaluate those letters that have been submitted to determine those folks that move on to the application phase. But there's no rush to submit. But as we mentioned, or as Dr. Harrison used with her best practice earlier, it's better to kind of work ahead of the game instead of waiting to the last minute because we all know things can happen at the last day. So, but there is no rush. We're not evaluating them until we get all the submissions.
Absolutely. And I definitely agree with Dr. Harrison. I always give myself I call it my fake deadline, and it's 2 weeks early, which is pretty much close to where we are now. However, it just gives us some guidelines to work through so that way we can step with our best intention.
Certainly.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for asking the question. Next, it looks like we have someone from Generation Upward Foundation. We'll get you off mute here and you can ask your question.
Hi, it is Stephanie Styles with Generation Upward Foundation, aka Steady and Play. Again, thank you guys for having this informational and for the work that you do. I know you guys never get tired of hearing our big ups to you guys because you do amazing work. So my question is, I know that we typically have different regions that you guys only service, but the way that we do our initiative, some of our institutional partners are online, and I know that partnerships was something that was big for you guys. But they're not in this region. Like we have some in Monroe, we have some in Thibodeau, but they are our partners, and they send their student parents to us because they live in the Baton Rouge area. So I guess my question is, are we able to include those partnerships? Because
Hey, Stephanie, we're losing you a little bit. It sounds like your mic might be muffled slightly.
uh-oh,
You're
can
back.
you hear me now? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So my question is, although our partnerships are not in the region that we are servicing, they send their student parents to us. Can we still incorporate those partnerships into our LOI?
So just so I'm picking this up correctly, you have folks that are online but don't necessarily live within the kind of pre-described capital region. They may be Shreveport, Monroe, Alexandria. Is that right?
Yes, but they use the Baton Rouge
Sure.
center that we have, but they go to school outside of Baton Rouge, which we have the partnership with those institutions.
Sure. I would use your best judgment and submit based on your entire reach. So if it goes beyond the capital region, but you certainly have folks that are participants and or clients or partners that are in the capital region, I would include them as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And let's see, do we have anyone else with any hand raised? I don't see anything else in the chat.
Dr. Willie, did you have another question, or I see your hand is still raised, just making sure we responded.
She's on mute, so she
Okay.
may not be able to come off mute here. We did have some questions that we thought might be asked, and so I'll just put out a few, and we can kind of do a Q&A for ourselves here. So one of them was, because this is new this year, last year, if you don't recall, was the first year that the foundation had done this type of impact grant funding round in quite some time. And so we were learning. We called it a pilot project internally because we wanted to learn how to best do this and wanted to listen to you all to determine the best way that we do another round. And so one of the things that we heard back was about funding multiple priorities and can that pool of funds be increased based on that funding priority. And so yes, you can apply under multiple funding priorities. You can combine them in one letter of interest or letter of intent. And of course, the application phase, if you make it onto that portion of the application. So wanted to make sure that we address that. The maximum amount for just one funding area is $25,000. But of course, you can request less than that if it makes sense for the ask.
Another question, if just in case anybody might be thinking about it, is what if our project is new? We do allow organizations are open to organizations submitting new initiatives and programs under already established organizations with demonstrated impact, metrics that are available to understand the organization's impact. So that's something else that is helpful to just know that if there is a new initiative you're considering, we would also consider it. And then again, general operating support. So you can apply for general operating support, project or program assistance, or capital cost assistance as well. We do ask in terms of, and going back to our eligibility criteria, that the folks who you are servicing are represented within the capital region, and it is okay if there are individuals and families who are not in the capital region. If the breadth of your organization's services and programs include the capital region and extend beyond it. But we do ask that in terms of eligibility, that your services and programs do include families, individuals, children, and people who live in the capital region, even if the breadth of your work extends beyond it.
Any other questions? If not, we will conclude with there's another hand popped up. So thank you. We'll get you off mute here, Dr. Harrison, and you can ask your question.
Sorry, not a question, just a shameless plug. Tomorrow, if you are bored and interested, we have volunteering at the farm from 8 to 10. Come out and get some okra and some fresh produce.
Always sharing those community resources. Thank you for sharing that.
Always, always.
I do want to mention before we wrap up here, as I mentioned, last year was the first time we'd done this in a while. We weren't sure the level of participation or the number of letters we were going to get in. I think we underestimated the amount of submissions that we got, which I think we got nearly 130 letters of intent last year, requesting nearly $3 million of requests. So I just want to state on behalf of our civic leadership team and the Baton Rouge Area Foundation, we do understand the need that our community is facing. And so we, in a number of our funding partners in our network here, are consistently trying to fundraise both locally, regionally, and nationwide to put more dollars into our pool of funds that hopefully we'll be able to extend our current pool past that $300,000 mark. So just wanted to let you know that is not the end goal for us. We'd love to have that go up and up and up because we do understand the need that exists in our community and that you all are facing within your respective organizations. So thank you again for joining us today. Again, we recognize the important work that you do across our communities, that you're creating meaningful change, and that our dedicated partners, which includes you, of course, are always committed to improving the outcomes of children, families, and communities throughout the Capital Region. As I mentioned earlier, a recording of today's webinar and additional resources will be shared following the session. If you have questions after today's webinar, please reach out to us at grants@braf.org. That's grants@braf.org. I do want to say, I know many of you have our own individual email addresses that I do always welcome for you to email us for anything that you may have regarding our work. But for the purposes of this, because we'll have multiple team members going through the LOIs and doing the applications and the evaluation, it's helpful if you submit a lot of those to grants@braf.org. That way it does not get lost in the shuffle of our individual inboxes, as crazy as they can be, as you might imagine. So just wanted to reiterate that part of it. Thank you again for everybody that is continuing to share upcoming updates and resources. Thank you, Christina, for sharing that of the Knock Knock Museum as well. If you're not a member or if you're not following the Baton Rouge Area Foundation, there's some QR codes there. You can always go to the Baton Rouge Area Foundation, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Please follow us there for a lot of the updates that we'll share throughout the week. And as always, a lot of the work that we do is supported by our members, just like you, both nonprofit and from the private and business community that continuously give a lot of their generous donations, resources, and time to support the work that we all do. So thank you again. We look forward to reviewing your letters of intent, learning more about your work throughout this process, and continuing to work on with you to make our communities better throughout Baton Rouge, the Capital Region, and South Louisiana. Hope you all have a good day. We'll talk to you soon.